we think about AI and data foundations, I want to ask you why the data foundation has suddenly become the make or break factor for companies that are trying to scale AI.
We have seen that building pilots is easy. Actually, we have done a lot of pilots on our own, and with the curated data sets, let's say that you are dealing with sales data. So if you have a curated data set, a CSV or an Excel, it's actually not that difficult to build a very impressive pilot that looks very impressive in a demo. But to take it to production is where the real challenges lie, because your company's data is not all curated, all in great shape. Your data is everywhere. It's in 10 different applications. It's in Slack channels. It's in Microsoft Teams messages. It's in a bunch of PDF documents. So to bring everything together is what the real challenge is. Once you bring everything together, you have the right information for your agents to make right decision based on. So the AI is going to be successful only if the data foundation layer is correct.
What you're saying is that getting to production is the hard part. But is it the win, Jay? Because I keep hearing teams that actually move their agents to production, and then 3 months later, nobody's really touching it.
Only 5% are able to extract significant value. So you can see there that it was difficult to get to production. And even when it is in production, there is only 5% of the cases where actually meaningful value is being extracted. And it doesn't mean that this is going to be with every implementation and the ratio is going to be maintained 1:19. No, that is not the case. With our experience, what we have seen is that every production grade agent has a shot at being in this 5%. And there's a clear path to it. And that's where we come in, and we help with our expertise to get to that 5%.
So what is actually that path to the 5%, to be that 1 in the 19 or 20?
So when we talk to our customers and they explain their AI initiatives, I ask them what they plan to gain from it. And almost none of them, they say that it's revenue on day one. It's more about making the current processes better, easier, and give time back to your employees, to your colleagues, so that they can spend that time on meaningful things. I'll give one example of one of the implementations we did a few months ago. It went to production towards the end of last year. This is a manufacturing company. Naturally, they have their processes are all focused on their core business, and the use case was that they were receiving a lot of purchase orders, documents in PDF, and of course they want to extract automatically the information from those documents, store it in the right place, curate it, make sure there's the right quality data, all standard stuff that we have been doing for decades now. But once the data is there, they wanted to automate the subsequent steps as well, to take this data and generate AutoCAD drawings from the data that has come in. So if you look at this entire process, it is heavily manual process and very repetitive in nature. So what we did, that we implemented Centerprise AI solution, and that automated the ingestion, the data quality checks, the curation of data, and then depositing data into a location where a human in the loop can go and review it. And they approve. Once they approve, that goes into another pipeline. And there is another agent, the AutoCAD agent, that is getting that data and generating the drawings and delivering it to the endpoint. This entire process is done within a matter of minutes compared to what it used to take weeks. So we learned a few things, and I would summarize that this we have seen as the recipe to extract the right value from your AI initiatives. There are 4 pillars, I would say. The first one is that automate back office tasks first. This is where there is very easy to implement and direct value. You can see that, you can measure it. How much value can you have with your AI agents? And every organization has this back office processes. Look at those tasks first. Then go with the vendor that has expertise instead of building in-house. That is another case where you can spend a lot of time in experimenting, and this area is still evolving. Go with the vendors that have experience in this area, and stay with your tooling that you already have. For example, with this use case that I was talking about, they had an AutoCAD application. We kept it as is, but we had an agent working the top of it. And that agent is able to work like your employee and get the work done. What your employee would take several hours, it can be done within a matter of a few minutes. So use the current tooling. And the last but not the least, would be ask whether the system could learn from the data and adapt to new information. So can it self-learn? Can it self-improve? That is one of the best, I would say, aspects of AI implementation. You can create a system that is improving by itself. So these are the 4 pillars that I suggest to look at whenever you're implementing an AI solution.
So when we're using AI, it's a lot about trust, right? How do we know that we can trust the work that these agents are doing? And how should the teams think about that?
Very natural question to ask, because AI by nature is probabilistic, or it can, for lack of better implementation, if you don't have the right implementation, it can even do hallucinations. So all those things are known. So the trust in AI solution, it sits in the foundation. I'll actually give an analogy, a parallel. So if you look at high-rise buildings, we take them for granted that you have 100-story building, 120-story buildings. They've been around. But if you look at the engineering work, a lot of focus goes into how the foundation is. If you want to make them weather resistant, if you want to make them earthquake resistant, right? There are actually high rises where they have technology like they have wheels in the
exactly.
In the foundation.
Yeah, in Japan.
So the point is that the foundation, if it is done right, that's what determines the stability of your entire building. And I draw a clear parallel with that in building AI solutions. If your foundation is done right, your AI is going to give you the right results. If it is not done right, it may look great on day one as a pilot, but it's never going to go into production. Even if it goes into production, it is not going to give you any value. So the foundation must be done right. And actually, if you look at the screen, this is our idea of building the right foundation. The foundation should be 2 parts, of course. One is the data foundation, because data is what gives the context for any decision making. Like humans, we make a decision based on information. If the information is right, our decision-making ability goes up. Same way, if you're building an AI solution, your data foundation has to be the first step. It has to be based on, it should be able to fetch data from all over the enterprise, whether it is in databases, applications, the APIs, and whatnot. So thankfully, there are a lot of companies who have been doing this for years. And if you are able to combine that capability of building data stack with the AI foundation, that's what builds the overall foundation of your agentic solutions. So AI foundation, again, will be whether it is done correctly, because there are still a lot of things is still evolving, and the context engineering, the memory portion of it should be model agnostic, the agent runtime, the governance of it, the security of it. Those all are considerations that we must pay attention to and have a solid AI foundation. And then securing data and cataloging. Governance piece, that is very important, because we want to know that which agent is doing what, how to govern them. That is also a very important layer. And then on the top of it, you build your AI applications. And then last but not the least, at the top layer is the user interface. So you can build fantastic solutions, but you must have a very friendly interface. And thankfully, we see that as a trend that Even Microsoft Teams or Slack channels can become the user interface. You simply chat with your agents, even WhatsApp, SMS. We do see a lot of voice-based interfaces, website chat interface we all have known, similar to ChatGPT or Claude, and the APIs as well. So these are the top layer, and that's where the user interacts with the agents. So this is how I would define that if built bottom up, foundations first, then go into governance layer, then you go into application layer, then you go into the user interfaces.
So Jay, without further ado, can you walk everyone through what actually Centerprise AI is?
We have been in data integration and management for over 15 years now. So the foundation comes naturally to us. We have been building those components for extracting data from structured data sources, such as your databases, structured files, and so on and so forth, semi-structured, unstructured data, such as your reports, PDF documents, and so on and so forth. We have been building the connectors, the way to transform them, the data quality, and the whole data pipeline building. That has been around for a long time. We have perfected it by working with hundreds of our customers over a decade and a half. Our solutions have been in production for, in some places, over 10, 12 years. So these are time-tested and solid components that are able to deliver the right foundation of data to you. But what we did that, we took that layer and started to build the top of it towards creating an overall stack where AI sits at the top. So starting from the bottom, structured, semi-structured, unstructured data, ingestion, data warehousing. We have been in data warehousing field for a long time. We can build data models and create data models that are standardized data models that can facilitate ingestion or actually analytics, where you can run reports, meaningful reports. We added RAG data stores. That is, this is a knowledge base of your unstructured documents. It automatically takes data, creates vector embeddings, and it makes it available for searches and in your knowledge base. So all your unstructured data is also part of your data ecosystem. And data pipelines, of course, deliver all of that to wherever you need it. We added our own AI functionality at the top of it, that is the support for MCPs. Then we have the skills. Skills are basically your way to teach AI about how to do the work. And skills are first-class object. You can treat them, you can like an artifact. You can version them and you can use them wherever you want to. And at the end of it, we have a top layer of consumption where AI can sit at this data stack that forms the business context and make meaningful decisions based on the scenario. So all the AI foundation also is made available. So therefore, we have a full stack where the data foundation and AI foundation layer, they come together. And we have the agent builder where you can build agents for a variety of scenarios. Now the agents are powered by meaningful data that is curated and that contains all the information that is going to be needed to make your agents effective. So that's what the Centerprise AI is. In a nutshell, a framework for AI to build, discover, and access data assets.
And Hira, why don't you take us through the live demo?
So we have this, what you see on your screen is a use case example here that talks about the exact pain points and why a data foundation is very important. So here we have this organization that's been giving discounts for the Black Friday month, and they've been giving discount on 35% of their orders. And now they want to figure out by the end of the month, if they give more discounts, will that bring more customers? Will the customers reorder, or did this experiment just fail? So with this experiment, they've collected this data, and now the chief revenue officer, he wants an answer to this question. So over here, they have they can either keep on giving discounts or they can stop this. And to get the answer, or even answer to questions similar to this, it takes a lot of time for teams because let's say they have to fetch this information from multiple systems. So sometimes it can take them days, it can take them weeks, and before they even get to anything meaningful, because the data is located in different sources. So you can look at this question and see that this is a very interesting question. It is a very multi-layered question, and it makes us think if the data is in one place, which it is not in this situation. And because we can see that the orders, they are in an ERP, any information that has the amount of discount that was given on each order, it lives in another system. We have the finance team that has to look up their billing system, or let's say some physical documents that are invoices to get this information. They might even have to copy this data from scanned documents, type in manually into a spreadsheet, so that they have to do all these manual steps to first get this data, and then to join this, clean this, connect all this. So in order to make sense of it, in order to make sense of the raw data that they just have, it is a total different story on what happens next once you're able to fetch this data, because then you have to, as I mentioned, you have to clean it. You have to match the customer that's sitting in the ERP that's there on the order data with the customer that submitted some feedback on the customer ticketing portal. So since this data, it's all scattered, there's no single place where all of this is connected. It makes it very difficult to join this data and finally get an answer to the original question. And since teams, it takes a lot of time to join this data, to curate this data, but so by the time they think that they have an answer, because it's taken a lot of time to get there, the data might be outdated. So if you directly now point all this raw data set to an AI model, and this is a very common question that we get from prospects, from customers, if they have these sources, if they have the data, why can't they just point some model to this? But the thing is that the model, it would get PDFs, it would get unstructured data, and it would have no context on what the fields mean, what the different tables are, the different entities that are there inside the system, and how they relate to each other, which is the most important point to answer this question, because all these systems, they are connected, and once they're joined, only then can we answer this very multi-layered what if question. So the answer to this is, or the solution to this is that they need a strong data foundation that is missing, that needs to be sitting underneath any AI model, any AI agent that you have. It needs a strong backbone, that is the data foundation, to give the right information, to give reliable results. So this is the this is where I'd like to cover how this whole process would look like with the data foundation in place. As you can see that we have the exact same question, but this time we have a data foundation, the sales order, the payment history, the discount history, the customer sentiment that we fetched from the ticketing portal. It's all fed into one place, and that is the catalog. So so the second box that you see, the data foundation and catalog, here's where we have everything. It's connected, it's saved to a dimensional warehouse, and that is optimized for analytics. So it's one thing to join all these sources, but then it's a totally different story to have an optimized data structure that is optimized for analytics. So not just this question that you see on the screen, any question that you want to ask related to the data, that is the order, payment, any feedback from the customers. So any question that you have, you can query the analytics agent in natural language, in English language, and it will give you the answer with strong evidence from the actual data that is fetched from these systems and that resides in these systems. So now, this is an answer that you can trust, and all you would have to do is just have one conversation with the agent. It will navigate to the sources and that are there in the catalog. And this catalog has every asset defined. This is something that we have implemented after having a lot of back and forth, a lot of discussions with prospects, with customers who've shared their challenges. And we've built this so you have all your sources under one platform that can connect to any agent that you want to run, and you're able to bring you're able to build a very strong data foundation. And this is something that I will cover live in the demo next. We're going with this a specific example, but it can be any agent, it can be any source, any system that you have, any use case. So with that, I can start sharing my screen to show the live demo. So here we have Centerprise AI user interface, and this is what sits at the top of the entire enterprise AI stack that we just discussed in our previous slides that Jay just talked about. And this is where the end user will interact with the enterprise AI system that it already has the data layer. It is connected to all our sources, all our assets, and here I've typed the exact same question that we were just discussing in our slides. And I've attached some context for the data warehouse, the skills that it needs, because all this is saved to that one place, which we call catalog here. And I've attached this skills, the user manual that it needs. This is able to guide the agent to use the correct logic, the correct entities to give us this answer. And I've just typed this question, and now I've pressed send. So as you can see, it has started thinking. It started processing the instructions that I've given it. It's processing the question, and you can see that it's showing me these steps. It's loading the discount analysis skill, the user guide, or the manual that it needs to understand my question, to understand how my source entities are related. It's connecting to the data warehouse, and if you want to do this without a data foundation, it will take you a significant amount of time. To build this union of your different sources and other assets that it needs, it might take several days, several weeks before you get an answer. But you can see that it's thinking, it's breaking this down into multiple steps, because this is not an easy question. Even if you have all the data, you can see that this is a very multi-layered question. It would take multiple iterations for even humans to figure this out, given that you have all the data. And as you can see, the agent has broken this down into multiple steps. And there you go. Here we have our answer, a very detailed table that is showing us the data from our source systems. And in a matter of seconds, it's generated the output. So it's giving us a very detailed output to show us, you can see the customer name here. We have the discount that was given, the amount of discount, if they came back, yes or no. I'll also expand this so we can see the rest of the columns. And you can see that it also fetched the customer sentiment from the support ticket. So these were all different systems. It's joined all that data based on the question that I had, and it's brought all this information here, and it's giving me information on the customer sentiment, if the discount was given, if they came back or not. So how many orders did they place after they came back? So you can see that it gives us the answer to whether giving discount, was it helpful? Should we do it again? It's also so it's answering our exact question. And if we focus to the left of my screen, you can see that it's also giving us some information or some description or summary of what the table is showing. So it's used all those systems because it had that data foundation in place, the catalog where it had to look for these entities, it had to look for the skills, for the user manuals, and you can see that it's giving us any action items, any recommendations. So it's given us a very detailed answer, and that is backed with the data from our sources that you see on my right.
Right. So here I have a question at this point. I see a lot of numbers, but how do we actually know if the agent is crunching these numbers correctly? So, and not just hallucinating them. So what's the metric here?
So that is a very good question, and this is something that we've discussed with a lot of customers, and I'm glad that you've asked this, because you can see that looking at this table, it not only gives us the information on the connection here, what entity did it connect to, what asset did it use, but you can see that it also has the logic that it used to give us this result. So here I've clicked on the SQL query icon, and you can see that it gives us the exact logic that it used to generate this output. So you can see that we have the entire sequence here, the steps that had, or the parts of the SQL query. So we have the whole entire logic that it used, and this is the exact logic that was used behind the scenes to give us this table. To fetch this data from our systems. So every step is logged here, and this is directly connected to what we've defined in our catalog. So I'll quickly open our workspace here So just so you have an idea of these assets that I'm talking about, so we have these connections here. That is the data warehouse connection. It has access to the sales system, to the invoices, to the customer ticket rack store. Here we have the skills that are the user manuals that guide our agent whenever we ask it a question. So this is the unified catalog that it uses whenever we ask it questions. And I'll also show you how where it's running this exact query. So while we're talking about the data assets, I'll quickly show you how the data warehouse looks like, because you can see it's connected to a data warehouse. It's generated this SQL query in a matter of seconds. And I'll just now open the data warehouse model. So you can see that this is the data warehouse schema, and this is a no-code user interface. I'll quickly show you these different entities that we have in our dimensional model that is powering all this behind the scenes. So the AI is able to answer this because it has this very, it has a union structure of these different sources. So it's not giving an answer out of nowhere or just using the raw data that is there inside our sources. We have this very defined data structure here. That is the dimensional model that the agent is using. And is our data warehouse. You can see it has entities coming from the sales ERP. It has the tables that it found, or the data structure that it found inside the ticketing system. So it has the customer details, the support channel details, the product details, invoice entity. So it has all these source systems, and it has unified those. And this is one of the core tasks that we were discussing is to first have access to all these systems, but then there's a very big task to identify relationships between these different systems and make it a unified data model. So you can see that all these are connected with common keys, and something that takes a lot of time when someone has to do them manually using spreadsheets, using formulas, but it has done this. And we have an agent that you can directly chat with, similar to how we've done this with the analytics agent. We have an assistant that you just type in plain natural language instructions. You describe the data model that you want to build, the pipelines that you want to build, and it helps you design these systems. So as you can see that we have these different entities here, and we have the customer support data structure. So I'll quickly show you how it's getting the customer sentiment from those tickets. So I'll quickly open this pipeline here, and you can see that we have this diagram, and it's fetching. It's created a rack store from the customer's tickets that you see. So the sequence is from left to right. We have this system that has customer emails, that have customer tickets, and now you can see that it's tagging each email, each customer ticket that they submitted with sentiment based on the description, the feedback that the customer provided, the subject of the email. So, and this is something that we also saw in our output, because our output has a column dedicated to customer sentiment. If I just go back to Studio real quick, so you can see that it is actually driving all this information from the data foundation that we built. So back to our customer ticket pipeline, you can see that it is exactly doing this job behind the scenes. It's tagging each ticket with the customer sentiment, using the customer feedback, and the agent has access to, and for any questions related to customer tickets, it directly uses this rack store that we've built. So similarly, we also have invoice data, and that is very important to answer the question that we were just discussing in our slides, that is the example for today. So we have to see when the customer paid, what purchase they made, and so this is just extracting data from those PDFs, from invoices that might be sitting somewhere in a shared drive, might be somewhere in the finance team's billing system. So it's extracting those key fields and writing them to a structured destination so that it is easier for our analytics agent to access and run these queries on it. So here is where we have behind the scenes of what is powering our agent. This is the data foundation. We have these different pipelines. We have the data models. We have the dimensional models. And the best thing is that all these systems, the data warehouse that we built, it gets updated automatically when your sources are updated. So let's say that there's another invoice that the new customer, or there's a new customer, you have a new product, you've changed the percentage of the customer discount. So you don't have to create these processes, these pipelines every time. This is a one-time process and it's scheduled on the server. So every time your sources are updated, you get a new customer, you get a new product. As I mentioned earlier, this pipelines runs in real time, and it updates the data warehouse that is there that the agent was just connecting to answer our question. And so whenever you ask a question, be it the question that we're going with in this example, be it a question that is specific to your business. So we have this pipeline that is automatically updated, and so this just makes sure that the data that is there in the warehouse, when we're asking the agent some questions, we just get the most up-to-date responses.
So another question here, for
sure.
from the app. So what I wanted to ask was, let's say I build an agent like this. Can the rest of my team get in and use it as well? So let's say I want Jay to use it. Will he be able to? How does access work in Centerprise AI? Because I don't want everyone to get access to the data sets that I use. How do we manage access?
Okay, that is a very common question, and teams are able to build these agents. They're able to build these models, these pipelines, but they're unable to share it with their teams. As you can see that we have a dashboard that the agent has generated. And this is something that you can share with your team. So I'll just quickly open this to show you how it's able to build these charts. But to answer your question, since this data, it is getting updated live, you want to share this with your team. So we have this option here, and you can create a shareable link here, and you can give access to the team members that you want. You can share this. You can just copy this link, and the team members that you share this with, they will just have a view of the dashboard. And let's say that they want to monthly review this dashboard. They don't have to create any pipeline. They don't have to design any kind of process. They just have to come to this link that you shared, and the data is automatically updated. So this is the first part to answer your question. But team members across the organization, so there are different assets other than the dashboard, or any kind of asset that you've designed. And here is where we are able to publish our workspace, all our projects, and we have a section for access rules. So this is where we have the list of projects that I've deployed that are available to my team members who are part of the organization. And as I mentioned, I have a section for access rules, and I can click on a project. Let's say I want to share it with Jay, or I want to share it with Sudesh, and I can restrict access. I can give them access. I can select the data asset, the project that I want. And then here is where I can define their permissions. On read level, I want to have them update the asset or update the processes. So this is where I can configure all that. I can add their email, and this will send them a notification, and then this is how they will access to the project, or similarly how you can restrict access.
That sounds good. Thank you so much for that, Hira.
I hope that answers your question. Sure.
Yes, it does.
Okay, so this is all for the live demo. But to answer your question, that is to summarize this, and this will cover all the questions that you've asked. So I'd say, like, for AI to work in production, you need two things, and that is something that Jay has covered in detail. We need a data foundation that makes sure your data is clean, it's connected, it's governed, and we have an AI framework that on top of this controls everything. And we've been building the data foundation for the last 10 to 15 years. And when AI comes along, we did not start over. We just built this AI harness on top of it. And that is why we had the hard part already solved. So it took us, like, we already had the expertise to build this top AI foundation on top of this. So I just like to say to the audience that wherever they are in this, if this resonates, we're happy to sit down and discuss any questions that they have.
Yeah, absolutely.